I can't stop thinking about you. You look so handsome.
Wow, that CORPER looks hot. Yes, I think I'm in love with him already.
Arrival in Owerri. When the bus crossed the rusty, "Welcome to Owerri" sign, Chinedu Okafor felt the familiar mixture of hope and dread settle in his chest. NYSC. 1 year that could make or break a man. At 26, Chinedu already stood out. He wasn't just another CORPER counting days till passing out parade. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and effortlessly handsome in a quiet, educated way. The kind of man people trusted before he even spoke. His skin carried the calm glow of someone who had never known hunger, but his eyes, sharp, observant, belonged to a thinker. First-class graduate. Education major. Private university. He had turned down job offers to serve properly, believing NYSC was more than khaki and clearance cards. Owerri greeted him with humid air, red dust, and noise that refused to sleep. "CORPER. CORPER. Where you dey go?" "Brother, bike." "Bike." Chinedu adjusted his backpack and smiled politely. He had no idea that this city, this posting, would become the most dangerous chapter of his life. Posting day. The posting letter almost made him laugh. Assignment. St. Agnes Private College, Owerri. Role, academic instructor. A private college, he muttered. Other CORP members groaned when they heard public secondary schools or rural postings. Chinedu felt relieved. Private institutions meant structure, discipline, professionalism. He was wrong. St. Agnes Private College. The school sat behind tall gates, surrounded by flowering trees and manicured lawns. It looked more like a resort than a learning institution. Female only. Elite. Strict on paper. The students, young women between 18 and 24, moved with confidence. These were not shy village girls. These were daughters of politicians, businessmen, and powerful families. The moment Chinedu stepped into the staff office, silence followed. Female teachers paused. Eyes lifted. Whispers started. The vice principal cleared her throat. "This is our new CORPER. Mr. Chinedu Okafor." Smiles spread slowly. The principal, Mrs. Ifenanya Okri, rose from her seat. She was elegant, mid-40s, dressed sharply, with eyes that lingered a second too long on Chinedu's face. "You're welcome to St. Agnes," she said warmly. "We hope you'll be comfortable here." Chinedu nodded respectfully. He didn't notice it yet, but something had already shifted in that room. The students noticed him. By the end of the first week, every student knew his name. Mr. Okafor. The fine CORPER. The intelligent one. His classes were full. Students asked questions they already knew the answers to, just to hear his voice. Some laughed too loudly at his jokes. Others stayed behind after lectures, pretending to struggle with coursework. And then, one evening, in a dormitory room filled with laughter and gossip, a dangerous idea was born. "Let's be honest," one of them said. "That CORPER is fine." Another laughed. "Fine is an understatement." A third leaned forward, eyes sparkling. "I bet I can make him like me first." Silence. Then laughter. Then agreement. None of them understood the fire they were about to play with. Handsome CORPER. By the second week, Chinedu Okafor stopped pretending he didn't notice the attention. It followed him everywhere. In the hallway, conversations paused when he passed. In class, I stayed on him longer than necessary. Even in the staff room, the air shifted when he entered, perfume lingering, laughter softening, glances exchanged. He told himself it was nothing. He was a CORPER. A professional. A man with a future. But attention has a way of whispering lies to disciplined men. St. Agnes Private College ran like a quiet empire. Official rules were strict, but beneath them lived a culture of indulgence. Money flowed. Influence protected mistakes. And loneliness hid behind elegance. Chinedu taught educational psychology and research methods. His lessons were structured, confident, engaging. Students listened because he didn't talk down to them. That was the problem. He treated them like equals. They bet. In Hostel C, room 12, 4 girls gathered most evenings. Zara, bold, wealthy, fearless. Kamsi, soft-spoken, observant. Rita, dramatic, charming. Neoma, quiet, calculating. They were all over 18. All intelligent. All dangerous in different ways. He doesn't flirt, Zara said one night, scrolling through her phone. That's because he doesn't need to, Rita replied. Women come to him. Neoma smiled faintly. Men like him always fall. They just need patience. Kamsi hesitated. This isn't a game. Zara laughed. Everything is a game. Then she said it. Let's see who he likes first. Silence followed. No one backed out. Private lessons. It started innocently. Sir, I don't understand this part. Can I see you after class? Please, sir, just 10 minutes. Chinedu stayed late. He explained concepts. He corrected assignments. He encouraged. Doors stayed open. At first. Then one evening, power failed. The generator hummed outside. The classroom glowed dimly. Zara sat across from him, closer than necessary, her notebook untouched. Sir, she said softly, do you ever feel lonely? The question caught him off guard. He laughed it off. Changed the topic. But the seed was planted. The principal. Mrs. Ifunanya Okari had noticed everything. She had run St. Agnes for 12 years. She knew desire when she saw it. She also knew power. One afternoon, she summoned Chinedu to her office. You're doing very well, she said, pouring him water. The students respect you. Thank you, Ma. She studied him openly now. No disguise. You're wasted on NYSC, she added. Men like you shouldn't struggle. Her hand brushed his wrist as she handed him a file. Chinedu froze for half a second. Then he smiled politely and left. But even discipline cracks when temptation keeps knocking. The first fall. It happened on a rainy evening. Kamsi stayed back. She cried about pressure. Expectations. Her family. She spoke softly, vulnerably. No seduction. No games. Chinedu listened. When she touched his hand, it felt human, not planned. That night crossed a line he told himself was already blurred. He promised himself it would never happen again. He was wrong. The collapse. After that, everything accelerated. Zara stopped pretending. Rita turned charming. Neoma waited and struck last. Private lessons became private moments. Silence became consent. Boundaries disappeared without announcement. Then came the adults. A teacher who needed comfort. Another who felt neglected at home. And finally, the principal. Power reversed itself quietly. No one spoke. No one accused. Everyone assumed control. Chinedu believed he was still in charge. He wasn't. The exit. NYSC redeployment came suddenly. Posting changed. Clearance signed. Farewells exchanged. Owerri watched him leave without noise. 3 weeks later, the first pregnancy test turned positive. Then another. Then another. In student hostels. In staff quarters. In a principal's bathroom at midnight. Phones rang unanswered. Messages went undelivered. Chinedu Okafor was already gone. The dark twist begins. By the time accusations surfaced, stories had been edited. Names changed. Timelines adjusted. Blame redirected. Some girls were forced to name other men. Some teachers lost their jobs. One staff member took her own life. The principal protected herself. The school protected its image. And Chinedu? He had already started again, new city, new name, clean slate. Free. But not untouched. Because secrets don't stay buried forever. The scandal nobody saw coming. Owerri woke up to whispers. They moved faster than official announcements, faster than denial, faster than truth. By the time the college management called an emergency meeting, everyone already knew something was wrong. At St. Agnes Private College, silence had become suspicious. The first discovery. It was Rita who collapsed during morning assembly. One moment she stood in line, adjusting her blazer. The next, she swayed, grabbed her stomach, and fell. Students screamed. Teachers rushed forward. At the clinic, the nurse frowned at the test strip. "Who is responsible for this pregnancy?" she asked quietly. Rita turned her face away. She didn't answer. But that night, in Hostel C, the girls knew. Zara locked the door. Neoma sat on the bed, unusually silent. Kamsi stared at the wall, her hands shaking. "I missed my period too," Zara said finally. Silence. Neoma swallowed. "So did I." Kamsi broke down. That was when fear replaced excitement. The bet was over. Reality had arrived. The staff quarters. While the students panicked, something worse was happening among the staff. Mrs. Helen, a junior lecturer, stared at her reflection in the mirror, pregnancy test in hand. Positive. She sat down slowly. "How?" she whispered. She already knew the answer. Across the compound, another teacher cried quietly in her bathroom. And in the principal's house, Mrs. Ifunanya Okari locked her bedroom door, sat on the edge of her bed, and pressed a hand to her mouth. She was too experienced to panic. But this was dangerous. Emergency meeting. The board meeting was tense. "How many?" one trustee asked. "Students or staff?" another replied sharply. That question ended the room. Phones were collected. Doors locked. Curtains drawn. "The CORPER," someone finally said. "Where is he?" "He completed service weeks ago," the vice principal answered. Mrs. Ifunanya spoke calmly. "We must be careful. Accusations without proof would destroy this institution." Everyone understood what she meant. St. Agnes had donors. Politically connected parents. A reputation to protect. Truth was negotiable. Control the damage. The strategy was simple. For students, families would be contacted privately. Other names would be introduced. Money would handle the rest. For staff, silent resignations. Transfers. Medical leave. For the CORPER, no official mention. No paper trail. No NYSC report. Except truth doesn't obey strategy. Kamsi speaks. Kamsi was different. She refused money. Refused silence. Refused lies. When her father arrived from ABA, furious and confused, she told him everything. The private lessons. The manipulation. The promises. The abandonment. Her father listened in silence. Then he stood up. "This will not be buried," he said. The first leak. A staff member, recently dismissed, sent an anonymous email to a blogger in Owerri. No names. Just details. A handsome NYSC CORPER. A private female college. Multiple pregnancies. silenced victims. Within hours, the story spread. Not confirmed, but believable. Parents started calling. Students whispered openly. Teachers avoided eye contact. St. Agnes began to crack. Where Chinedu was. Chinedu Okafor sat in a small apartment in Asaba, scrolling through his phone. He had changed numbers. Changed postings. Changed stories. He told himself Owerri was behind him. Then a message slipped through. They are pregnant. No sender. No details. His chest tightened. He turned off his phone. That was his choice. The fall guy. Someone had to pay. The board selected a junior male lecturer, someone already disliked, already vulnerable. He was accused. Suspended. Investigated. His life collapsed in weeks. The real story stayed hidden. Almost. The darker truth. One of the teachers couldn't live with it. Pregnant. Abandoned. Threatened. She wrote a letter. Names. Dates. Evidence. She never sent it. Her death was ruled an accident. And just like that, fear returned stronger than truth. The hunt without a face. By the time St. Agnes Private College released its official statement, nobody believed it. The institution is investigating an internal misconduct issue unrelated to NYSC personnel. The lie was too clean. Too rehearsed. Parents had already connected the dots. Students whispered names. Staff avoided corridors. And outside the tall school gates, the press began to wait. Owerri had smelled blood. The families arrived. Cars with tinted windows filled the parking lot. Big men. Influential women. Quiet threats wrapped in smiles. Meetings happened behind closed doors. Some parents wanted justice. Some wanted silence. Some wanted revenge. Money moved. So did fear. Zora's family flew her abroad for medical reasons. Rita disappeared from campus overnight. Neoma was suddenly expelled for misconduct. Only Kamsi remained. She refused to leave. The girl who would not be silent. Kamsi sat across from a lawyer she had never met before. You don't understand how powerful these people are, the woman said gently. I understand, Kamsi replied. That's why someone has to speak. Her father nodded beside her. They filed a petition. Not to the school. Not to the police. To NYSC headquarters. NYSC takes notice. Files were opened. Posting records reviewed. Clearance dates checked. Supervisors contacted. Chinedu Okafor's name resurfaced. Clean record. Excellent evaluations. No complaints. Too perfect. A junior officer frowned at the file. Why was this man never reported? There was no answer. The principal moves first. Mrs. Ifunanya Okari didn't wait for questions. She traveled to Abuja. Meetings were held. Phones rang late at night. Favors were called in. By the time NYSC followed the paper trail, it led nowhere. No official complaint during service year. No written evidence. No physical presence. Chinedu Okafor had completed service honorably. On paper. The man behind the name. But paper doesn't erase memory. A journalist named Emeka began digging. Former students talked. A dismissed teacher hinted. An anonymous email arrived, again. This time, with details. Dates. Class schedules. Private lessons. Emeka published without naming him. The headline read, "The CORPER who left a school in ruins." Owerri exploded. Someone had to pay. The board panicked. They sacrificed the vice principal. She was accused of negligence. Suspended. Publicly blamed. Her crime: knowing too much and having no protection. She cried on television. "I warned them," she said. But they wanted silence. The principal watched from her living room, unmoved. Where Chinedu was now? Lagos. A consulting firm. A new job. A new girlfriend. Different city. Same charm. When the article reached him, he laughed. "No name," he said. "No case." He blocked the last number that tried to call him. He had learned something in Owerri. If you leave early enough, consequences arrive late. The cost of escape. Back at St. Agnes. One girl lost her scholarship. One teacher lost her life. One man lost his reputation. One school lost its soul. And the real architect walked free. Kamsi gave birth quietly. She named her child Truth. Not because she won, but because she survived. The final shield. NYSC closed the file. Insufficient evidence. The journalist's story faded. The school rebranded. The principal retired with honors. And Chinedu Okafor. He changed his surname. Started again. A dark lesson. Years later, a young CORPER would arrive in Owerri. Someone would tell him a warning story. About a school. About power. About silence. But nobody would mention the name. Because in Nigeria, some men don't fall. They simply move. The final shadows. Years passed. Owerri changed. Streets got wider. The red dust returned after rain. The tall gates of St. Agnes Private College gleamed in the afternoon sun, but the shadows never left. Kamsi's truth. Kamsi had moved on as best she could. She finished her degree. Raised her daughter Truth. Quietly worked in Abuja, far from the scandal that had nearly destroyed her. But every now and then, she felt a chill. One evening, scrolling through news updates, she froze. A consultancy firm in Lagos had announced a leadership mentor program. The face on the screen. Chinedu Okafor. Same calm eyes. Same confident smile. Same handsome man who had left chaos behind. Kamsi closed her phone slowly. She whispered, "He walks free, still." Her daughter, Truth, slept unaware. And she wanted it that way. The school moves on. St. Agnes had rebuilt its image perfectly. The principal retired with accolades. Teachers who survived were promoted. The students who stayed. Some thrived, some vanished quietly. The scandal became a whisper of the past, a cautionary tale no one dared speak too loudly. Yet the memory lingered, like a storm that never fully cleared the sky. The journalist who tried. Emeka, the journalist who first exposed the story, had moved on too. His article went viral for a moment, then faded into the digital void. The truth was messy. The public wanted a villain with a name. Chinedu had no name. And sometimes, truth was powerless against charm, timing, and invisibility. Chinedu Okafor, the man who escapes. In Lagos, Chinedu lived quietly extravagant. Clients trusted him. Colleagues admired him. Women were drawn to him. He had learned a lesson: never stay in one place too long, and always leave before the storm arrives. For him, Owerri was a memory, a chessboard where he had moved just the right pieces and walked away before the checkmate. The final irony. Back in Owerri, people whispered the legend. A handsome CORPER arrived. Chaos followed. Lives were ruined. And the man responsible. Gone. No one knew where he was now. No one could touch him. The final lesson lingered. In life, some men never fall, they simply vanish into the shadows, leaving the world to pay for their mistakes.